Hi everybody, this is Healthcare Sucks back at you today. Hey, I called it, guys. Uh, busy, as they say. Come to find out, you might have already heard, but I guess the second most important person over there in Iran has been taken out with that attack. The, I believe it was Major General of the guards there was taken out. I'm gonna let you listen to this so we get the story straight because I don't want to mislead you. So let's check this out together and then we'll talk about what's really going on here, guys. I put out this is my fourth video in the last 24 hours because things are jumping. I told you guys I try to keep up on everything, not just one side of the coin, the other side of the coin. But with that being said, check this out.
U.S. airstrike. The top official at the Pentagon warning the game has changed. And as the media blasts the Trump administration's response to the Baghdad embassy siege, Benghazi survivor Mark Geist is here live in minutes to tell his version of the story and set the record straight. We'll have breaking news coverage throughout the hour. Plus, former deputy FBI director turned CNN contributor Andrew McCabe admits to lying and misleading federal prosecutors about a media leak. He says he's sorry. Will he face any charges? We're digging into that case and the facts of it tonight. Hello and welcome to Fox News at 9. I'm Shannon Bream in Washington. Aisha Hasni kicks off our coverage of decisive action by the U.S. in Iraq and reaction from the critics and supporters tonight. Good evening, Aisha. Good evening, Shannon. Yes, the Pentagon just released a statement tonight confirming the U.S. has killed Iranian Major General Qasem Soleimani. The statement reads, at the direction of the president, the U.S. military has taken decisive defensive action to protect U.S. personnel abroad by killing Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force, a U.S. designated foreign terrorist organization. General Soleimani, they add, was actively developing plans to attack American diplomats and service members in Iraq and throughout the region. The 62-year-old Soleimani was designated a terrorist by the U.S. back in 2005. The Pentagon says he orchestrated the attacks on coalition bases in Iraq over the last several months, including that December 27th attack. He is also responsible for killing more than 600 American troops over the Iraq War, and he was also part of a failed Iranian plot to assassinate the Saudi ambassador to the U.S. in 2011. Soleimani is among 7 people killed by a U.S. airstrike near Baghdad International Airport tonight. The other major death is of Iraqi militia commander Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis. He is the man behind the 1983 U.S. Embassy bombing in Kuwait. Iraq's security media cell reporting rockets hit near the airport's cargo hall, setting 2 cars on fire. Earlier today, Secretary of State Mark Esper joined America's newsroom, reiterating the U.S.'s right to defend itself.
I'm not going to telegraph what we're going to do, but people know that we have vast capability to do any number of things. We will act in response to actions by Iran or its proxies, and we will act to preempt any attacks on our forces, our personnel, by Iran or its proxies.
Lawmakers tonight already raising questions about this. Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy tweeting this evening, Soleimani was an enemy of the United States. That's not a question. The question is this, as reports suggest, did America just assassinate, without any congressional authorization, the second most powerful person in Iran, knowingly setting off a potential mass...
Second most powerful person. All you guys that have your own little YouTube things going, truthers, tubers, whatever you call yourself, spread the word, guys, because this is a wildfire. This is like the kid that was playing with matches in the hayfield and dropped a match. That's the way I'm going to put it. I will be very surprised if this is not what we were waiting for to happen last year. I believe as cocky as they are, as mouthy as they are, I expect them to retaliate. And when they do, we're going to have to put the hammer down. Bottom line, guys, we just cannot allow these people to be doing this to us no more. I kind of told you earlier, if it was the dark ones, it was one thing. This isn't that situation. This is, the way I look at it, just call it bonus. When you go in to take care of a problem and there's a bonus item, you pick it up, you take it with you. And that's what we did. We took the bonus item. I actually got 2 bonus items in this case. But, you know, whether you want it or not, this has been coming. I tried to explain it on my last few videos that this is an end of day scenario, guys. Get out your Bible for yourselves. I mean, I can preach to you, but it's better off if you want to hear what's going on or know, pick up the book. Go to Revelations. Bad word there. Anyway, back to what's going on, and we'll chat some more.
Regional war. The airstrike comes just one day after the U.S. deployed 750 troops to the region in response to the Iraqi militia attack on the U.S. embassy in Baghdad. And tonight, Shannon, the Department of Defense adding the strike was aimed at deterring future Iranian attacks and that the U.S. will continue to monitor the situation and take all necessary action to protect its people and its interests. Shannon?
Aisha Hosni with the breaking news out of New York. Thank you.
You bet.
Well, the shadow Iranian Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani was seen as an enemy of American forces going way back to the Obama administration and beyond. Take a look at this clip from an interview with the chief of staff of the Army back in 2015 with our own Jennifer Griffin.
I think we have to be careful. Qasem Soleimani is the one who's been exporting malign activities throughout the Middle East for some time now. He's absolutely responsible for killing many Americans. In fact, I would say the last 2 years I was there, the majority of our casualties came from his surrogates, not Sunni or Al-Qaeda. And so obviously that's concerning to me. And what are they after? What are their ends? Now, I believe that we are not flying missions in support of Qasem Soleimani by the Air Force. I think we're flying only missions in support of the ISF.
So now just coming in, we've got some new pictures of the aftermath of the airstrike in Baghdad. These images are coming in from the Associated Press. They're reportedly showing what has happened and what's left, some of the aftermath, fires burning there, destruction you can see. As the Pentagon tonight has taken full responsibility and explained what was behind the Commander-in-Chief's decision to launch this airstrike, taking out General Soleimani. This is a little bit of what we're seeing in the aftermath there. Of course, it is a much different time over there, and soon there will be the sun will be coming up, and it'll be very interesting to see what the reaction is overseas. There are many divisions that are going to feel very differently there in those communities in that region about what has happened tonight. Again, the Pentagon saying that it had.
I'll put my email in here, guys, at the end of this. If any of you hear what DEFCON we're at, I'm just curious. If you have access to that or anybody knows or is keeping track, we've got to be up a notch or two just by this. I mean, this is definitely what we have always said, the poo flying into the fan scenario. Definitely. As far as that goes, guys, pray, take care of yourselves, take care of your family, love one another, and just keep your eyes and ears open because it's rocking. And this is just the beginning, guys. I'm telling you, this is the second day 2. And this little incident, which may turn out to be a bigger incident than any of us know, does not include the weather things things from space, things from under the ground. I did a video on that with them coming up from below our feet. Backtrack and check it out. True facts there, guys. DARPA and other things. Underground personnel carriers, guys. With, I believe, AI / robots. So you don't even have to have oxygen to these things. They can pop out of the ground. Check out one of my previous videos. It's back there. We're going to jump back in and see what they got to say, and then we'll be back.
Had distinct information that there were threats potentially to American interests in the region. And this president had warned and made very clear that he would act to protect American interests and personnel. There was reference not only to the siege at the embassy there, the U.S. embassy in Baghdad, but also to the prior rocket attack. You'll remember less than a week ago, December 27th, in which an American contractor was killed. Other personnel were injured as well. So now, tonight, decisive action by the Pentagon. There are critics and supporters of this who are weighing in tonight from both sides of the aisle, and we're going to talk about that and talk to some of them throughout this continuing coverage this hour. But again, you're looking at a little bit of the first images of aftermath coming out from the Associated Press. So now let's go to Chief Breaking News correspondent Trace Gallagher for more on how the media is portraying the attack on that U.S. embassy and tonight's strike in Baghdad. Trace?
Shannon, good evening. The smoke had yet to settle in the attack on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad before liberal commentators and the left-wing media seized on the opportunity to criticize the president. Watch.
You've got them, stoking anti-Americanism, potentially giving an advantage to Iran.
This goes back to a really strategic decision that the president made. We're engaged in a war of words, which is certainly not helpful.
These are tough times, and one worries whether the administration has the sort of horsepower and brain power.
Listen to these things, guys, to show you what's going on. After what just happened, I guarantee these monkeys are going to pull a 180, and it's going to be, oh my God. First they're saying, he doesn't have the cojones. He won't. We all know he would if he needed to. Well, apparently he needed to. But now watch for the monkeys. It should be like the monkeys in the zoo throwing the poo. It's going to flip around. It's going to be the other side of the coin. Here's some more.
To deal with them.
It also did not take long for them to label this Trump's Benghazi. Despite the fact there were no U.S. injuries, the embassy was not overtaken, and the president is sending troops instead of pulling them back. Still, groups like Vote Vets, a progressive veterans group that aims to put Democrats in office, wrote in a now deleted tweet, quote, "Hey, POTUS, remember your Benghazi rants during 2016? You're about to have your own one, unfortunately, in Iraq." MSNBC host Joy Reid retweeted a White House statement about impeachment, adding the caption, quote, "as Trump's Benghazi unfolds in Iraq." That prompted Texas Senator Ted Cruz to reply, quote, "What's wrong with you? Is partisan hatred really that deep? We root for American soldiers, not against them." Senator Lindsey Graham also pushed back, quote, "President Trump is determined to protect American personnel and expects our Iraqi partners to step up to the plate. No more Benghazis." And John Tig Teagan, one of the men who defended the U.S. consulate in Benghazi in 2012, says it is inaccurate to compare the two.
There was no ambassador there, and there was no consulate, technically personnel at all, because they all got evacuated prior to the protesters getting there. And that's a big difference between this administration and the last administration. At least this one took a stance before it actually was coming.
Meantime, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo shared a photo of Iraqi official Hadi al-Amiri outside the embassy Tuesday, condemning him as a, quote, Iranian proxy.
And that's exactly what we're not having. We're not having a Benghazi situation because our president cares. He's the man. He's standing up for America. He's standing up for the troops. He's watching out. And he's not to be pushed. You know, he's not a warmonger. He's put it off. And they did what? You know, how many months ago? Kept pushing him. Kept doing this. Kept aggravating, shooting our drones down. Attacking ships. And I guarantee you, dozens and dozens of things we don't even know about. So you know what? Click, click, bang. it was time. The trigger's been pulled. We'll deal with it as it comes. That's the way I see it. How do you see it, guys? You'll have my email. Send some messages. I'll take some of your emails and run them in my next video because I'm going to be on this.
Surrounded by terrorists. Finally, we should point out that after tonight's strikes at the Baghdad airport, which killed Major General Qasem Soleimani, the Washington Post ran a story with the title, "Airstrike at Baghdad Airport Kills Iran's Most Revered Military Leader." That headline has since changed to, "Airstrike Kills Major Iranian Military Figure in Iraq." But the paper previously called Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi a, quote, austere religious scholar. Shannon.
All right, Trace Gallagher with the latest. Thank you. So what's the immediate impact of tonight's news out of Baghdad with action by the U.S. after days of growing tensions in the region? Let's discuss with the Deputy Director of the U.S. Office of the National Council of Resistance of Iran, Alireza Jafarzadeh, and a survivor of that attack in Benghazi in 2012. Mark Geist, and he is joined, we understand, tonight by his service dog, Roan. Great to have you all with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sharon. Appreciate it.
Mark, I want to start with you. I wonder how this appeared to you, what your emotions were, what your analysis was, seeing what happened at the embassy just a couple of days ago, and how this administration responded.
You know, what we saw here was a group that has been allied with Iran, who has been trained by Iran's Quds forces and has American blood on their hands. I mean, they are the first group that really started utilizing the EFPs, the electronic force penetrators, that killed numbers of, you know, somewhere in the 600, 700 number of military service members. You know, when they launched 30 rockets in Kirkuk, killing a U.S. Contractor, and our response was appropriate. We had to let them know that, you know, you're not going to deal with this. You are not going to be a terrorist organization and attack Americans and kill American service members. You saw them use the ruse, is what I call it, of mourning the death of those 25 that were killed, to gain access into the green zone, to utilize that and attack our embassy. And the president, I mean, he did exactly what he should have done, and he responded forcefully, immediately, but also with the right restraint at the time to protect the forces that were there.
Okay, I want to play something from Wendy Sherman from the Obama administration. She was a Deputy Secretary of State. Of course, she was part of putting together the Iran nuclear deal. She wrote a piece this week ripping President Trump, saying this lies at his feet, essentially, that he brought us to this point. Now, that piece was written before tonight's strike that took out Soleimani. Here's what she said after word of the strike surfaced.
That, in my view, very painfully, it is President Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear agreement that started a series of steps that have led us to this day.
Alireza, your reaction?
First of all, what you've seen the past few weeks or months in Iraq, and particularly the past week, has nothing to do with the Iranian nuclear deal. It has everything to do with the intentions and the operations and the agenda of the Iranian regime in Iraq and in the whole region. Remember what Qasem Soleimani, that we're talking about him today, has done in Iraq.
Well, personally, I can remember when Desert Strike, Desert Storm, and all those started, and the CNN thing went in, and it was kind of the major kind of, all the channels flipped over, and it's when actually CNN was covering real news back then. And I gotta say, I broke out the Fritos tonight. I'm not much of a popcorn person no more, but Fritos are my thing. And I can tell you, if you like popcorn, Fritos, chips, dips, get them ready, guys, because the show's about to begin. And, you know, again, you got to remember, this is ordained. This was going to happen. You can't stop these things. And, you know, since, again, they've been pushing the buttons for a long time. No matter which way he went, the current president's always going to be a bad guy. And one thing everybody needs to get over now is we're being manipulated to fight with each other, guys. We're all ones, brothers and sisters. We're all together in this ship. We all need to knock this off, this fighting left and right baloney, because that we're being played. What we need to do is all jump in the boat together and take turns paddling and be one team. Team America. I would say it, but I've already said enough. This video ain't going to be up very long. Anyway, here's a couple more minutes and we'll go on.
It dates back to early days, back to 2004, 2005. Those EFPs that penetrate through armor and were the #1 killer of American forces were prepared by the Quds Force, headed by Qasem Soleimani, and shipped across the border over over a decade. Qasem Soleimani was the most notorious criminal. He was evil. He has the blood of hundreds of thousands of people, both in Iran, in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, and other places. So trying to basically portray what the Iran regime's operations is conducting in Iraq as something as a result of someone else's fault is totally inaccurate. The fact of the matter is that what you saw in front of the embassy, American embassy, there were no protests there. That was a military march by the proxies of the Iranian regime, the Hasht Shabi, which were created, funded, trained by the Iran regime, including Qasem Soleimani. And this has been going on for a long time. The real reality about Iraq is the people of Iraq who have been protesting against the Iran regime's influence, specifically naming Qasem Soleimani since last October in their protest acts all over Iraq, from Tahrir Square in Baghdad to Najaf and Karbala in Basra, the Shia majority population there. They're all turning against the Iran regime's influence, against Qasem Soleimani, and against his top arm in Iraq, Abu Mehdi Mohandes, who was basically running the Shia militia operations in Iraq. This is the reality of Iraq, and that cannot be overseen. But also remember, the 800-pound gorilla in the room is the Iranian regime and their rule in Tehran, because the regime is in big trouble. The regime is facing a lot of protests by the Iranian people. Back in November, there were protests in 191 cities. The regime killed 1,500 people and arrested 12,000 people. So this regime is weak, is vulnerable, they're desperate. That's why they're making these actions. And I think today's action, the elimination of Qasem Soleimani, is a good news. It's a big blow to the Iranian regime, the biggest blow in a long, long time. It's going to change the whole equation. It's a game changer, and it's going to go to the right direction.
Okay, Mark, very quickly, I want to give you a quick final word here, because I want to ask about your reaction to a lot of the folks that we're seeing out there tonight, senators, political candidates, and others saying that this was an unnecessary provocation. The president may have been doing this as a distraction from domestic issues, and that people there serving the region, you were there for years, Mark, that they're now in danger. What do you say?
You know, it's really sad for me as a service member, as a private security contractor, having served this country for so many years, that our politicians are so filled with hate that instead of seeing that Iran is the tyrannical, the tyranny of that they are, that they kill their own people, they kill thousands of Americans in Iraq, and instead of condemning the criminality of what they do, they want to stand behind and say that it's inappropriate action. Well, what we have now is we have a president who isn't afraid to do what needs to be done, isn't afraid to do the right thing, who is going to take a measured, strategic look at things, and he's going to do what needs to happen. And killing terrorists, killing people who are killing Americans sends a message to the rest of the world. I mean, currently we have Iran, China, and Russia doing, joint exercises in the Persian Gulf. This sends a message to them as well. And it also sends, on the positive side, as was just recently said, was to the Iranian people, to the Iraqi people who want to have their own country, they want to have a say in what goes on in their own countries. And this is what has to happen.
Yeah, it's a clear message to them and to leaders around the world. Mark, thank you for your service.
And with that being said, guys, listen to what he said. That's how it is. It was measured. I think the president waited till the proper time. He didn't go off during last summer. He didn't go off when they were poking him with the stick, shooting down, our drones, putting holes in ships, and whatever else is going on. Again, things that we don't even know. This was the time for action. And I want to this has got the feeling like this is the time. Now, as far as I noticed a lot of other people are jumping right on it and saying WW3. I even showed you a picture when one of my videos I did that it said WW3 on it. Not sure if people are that stupid at this point to lead to that scenario yet. But this definitely will either cool the boots of the Iranians, or they'll step up and we'll have to give them the slap down that they've been asking for a long time. And with that being said, like they did say, they're doing maneuvers over there, China, Russia, and Iran. There could be more going on right there behind, that we don't know about. But I would be very surprised if right now this, set it all off. I think now, if tit for tat, they come back, we got to go in and actually slap them down hard. Then we'll have to step back and take another look at where we're going to go and where it's going to go from here. And I think Russia and China is definitely going to step back too and take a look before they jump in over. These guys had a little ass whooping coming, and they got it. So with that, remember, healthcare sucks. We'll keep in touch.